All right, one more Tyrice Knight video, and then we'll have said basically most of what we can say. And in the case of Tyrice Knight, there isn't a lot to go on. I'm just going to say it right now. And people are going to watch this video and think I'm really hating on Tyrice Knight. Understand that I'm not, but I can only work with what I'm given. And what I've been given is a world where if you want to look at a cut up of UTEP's defense over the last several years, there's really only one video on YouTube right now that gives you that. And then there are a couple others where you can piece together a little bit of the game, but for the most part, if you want to look at UTEP defense, you've got one video where they went to Oklahoma in 2022 and got destroyed. So, right off the bat, we're looking at a game from 2022, which was not Knight's breakout season. So let's start there. Beyond that, we're also looking at a game against a team that was much better than UTEP. Oklahoma, obviously one of the better teams in the country in 2022. Well, I don't mean to say like they were one of the best teams, but they were much better than UTEP. This was a cupcake game for Oklahoma, absolutely. Excuse me. Throat giving me issues today. Yeah, it's not great. And I wish I had more. And I'm going to try to find more in the coming months. But for now, since I know the draft just happened and people are hot to trot on this kind of stuff, I want to go ahead and present what I have. So I'm going to have my notes from UTEP's game against Oklahoma in 2022 on screen. And quite simply, Tyrice Knight did not come out of this game looking very good to me. He looked pretty bad. So people are going to watch this video and think, "Oh, I'm saying he's bad because the tape I watched was bad." And from this game, I think that's true. But at the same time, I've seen things in other games where he's playing lesser competition that is actually on the level of his team, and he has played better. I just don't have full game tape there. So keep that in mind as we go forward here. So Tyrice Knight against Oklahoma, 56 snaps, which was most of the game, of course, 9 tackles, missed 1 tackle, 2 receptions allowed on 2 targets for 15 yards, including a touchdown. So those were the raw box score numbers. But let's try to understand what happened as this game went on. Let's try to understand the game flow here for the Tyrice Knight versus Oklahoma. So there are a few things that you really pick up on when you watch this game, and you look at the things that Tyrice Knight is doing for them. There's a lot of plays where he's lining up in the slot, like the second play of the game, he lined up in the slot, and then his man went in motion and went in to play tight end, so he follows him. And that's where most of his slot reps seem to come, where he follows his man in man coverage. He did end up in man coverage a pretty good amount at UTEP, which I don't think is going to be something that he's very good at in the NFL. And he follows his guy wherever he goes, basically. There was the first touchdown of I think it was the first touchdown of the game for Oklahoma. Dillon Gabriel ran the zone read handoff, where it's a fake handoff and he keeps it. And Tyrice Knight shows his over aggressiveness on this play. He bites down really hard on the zone read handoff fake, and then he ends up stuck in the middle, and Gabriel just takes the edge, runs for a touchdown. He wasn't the only UTEP defender that bit down hard on the fake, but he was one of them, and he ended up completely unable to really affect the quarterback. I think he hit the quarterback as he was crossing the goal line, but yeah, not an impressive initial rep here. Next possession, I think it was, he was lined up in the slot, and Oklahoma ran a shotgun draw, and he came up and made the tackle. Looked pretty good, was able to clean it up with minimal yards after contact gained or anything like that, just kind of dropped him. There was a 30-yard run immediately after that, where it was an off-tackle run to Knight's side, and he just looked a little tentative to me, like he needed to do something a little more decisively to either take the edge away or take the gap away. As near as I could tell, he probably should have aggressively attacked the gap that I think it was Eric Gray, ended up running through and forced him to bounce it outside. But he just he looked tentative, and it turned what could have been a short gain into a 30-yard gain. He's used in coverage a lot to pick up short little curls around the line of scrimmage. Like the running back or the tight end will leak out a couple yards from in front of the line of scrimmage, and he'll just pick up receivers in that area. Um, there was a play from near midfield where he gave up a long catch and run in zone. At least I think it was him. He was in zone, and the receiver that was in his area, the closest receiver to him, got behind him and inside him, and he kind of drifted to the outside when he should have been drifting inside. It looked like a little bit of a lack of awareness there in zone, so looked bad there. And then shortly after that, he gave up his touchdown, which was basically a busted coverage. He was supposed to be covering, I think it was a tight end, and he didn't drift backwards fast enough, and Gabriel just lobbed it over his head for a wide open touchdown. It looked bad. I'll say that much. It looked bad. He just looked like he got caught flat-footed, and you give up the touchdown that way. There was another play shortly after where Oklahoma ran a reverse, and maybe he was just trying to stay in his lane, but he looked tentative to me when he was attacking the reverse. He could have maybe prevented a bigger play, and then when he got to the ball carrier like 10 yards down the field, he missed the tackle. That was his missed tackle on the day. It looked like a really weird missed tackle, too. I don't really know how he missed it. He just slid right off of him, and that allowed a touchdown as well. So, yeah, we're not off to a very good start here with this Tyrice night tape. I'll be the first to admit it. A lot of plays where he's being used as a quarterback spy, basically just hanging out right behind the line of scrimmage, watching Gabriel to make sure he doesn't take off and run with it. So that's part of his game, which is something that I imagine he'll be used for in the NFL. There was a run play, I think it was just out of I formation. The fullback climbed up to him and washed him out of the play. He had no chance to shed, really. It was a nice play by the fullback, nice block, and he wasn't able to get off it in time to affect the play, really. Um, Finally, when we start getting like deeper into the second quarter, there was one play where he attacks a gap to take the outside away on a run play and made the tackle. It was actually pretty impressive. He just slid through a gap, got to the running back's outside shoulder to make sure he couldn't get to the edge. It was like one of those outside zone runs. And then he was able to kind of lasso him down. It was pretty nice. It showed what he could be in the NFL. Next, I think it was the very next play. Yeah, it was. He made an open field tackle where he had to shed off the lineman to get there. So he is showing some of that stuff. I don't think it's consistent enough. I did see a decent amount of it in this game where he was actually able to work through traffic and get off linemen to get to the ball. It's not so much stack and shed sometimes as it is just like slipping by the blocker, admittedly. Generally speaking, though, watching this first half, I just kind of felt like he needed to be attacking a little more aggressively, and this was a 2022 game, so I can say in 2023 he improved, but he seemed a little tentative and passive to me, and maybe he was just trying to stay in his assignment, but it just looked a little lackadaisical. Um, there was one play close to the end of half where he took on a blocker very aggressively and managed to get off him enough to assist with the tackle. I was relatively impressed with that as far as this tape goes. A play where he just decisively decided, look, I got to get this blocker so other people can make this tackle. And then he got a bunch of plays right before halftime off. As near as I could tell, I couldn't see him on the field. Again, I'm working with limited resources here, but as near as I could tell, he got most of that last drive off. There was second half. He started the second half off getting caught on the outside against an inside run, big carry for, I think it was Eric Gray again. Maybe it was Major. Either way, he just got caught outside. Guessed wrong, I guess you could say. There was a play where he was the QB spy and Gabriel took off for a run, picked up some yards, but the blocker that he had a lead blocker in front of him, and Knight was able to beat the blocker to the spot to force Gabriel to slide rather than go get more yards. So that's one way to deal with blockers, just go around them. There was another play where he managed to slip off a blocker to make a tackle, but I did notice that his lack of strength showed up here. I think it was Eric Gray just bulldozes him for extra yards. There was one play where he lined up basically as an outside corner and gave up a short completion. I don't know if it was assigned to him or the other guy. I think PFF gave it to the other guy, but near as I could tell, he was in coverage. Again, lined up as an outside corner, basically, which that's certainly not what you want to be doing with Tyrice Knight. There was a goal line stand for UTEP at this point in the game. They actually stopped Oklahoma on two, like, first and goal from the two and then second and goal from the one situations, and Knight was actually involved in it. He was aggressively attacking blockers and aggressively attacking gaps to try to keep the ball carrier out. Both times they did, and he almost did it again on third down, but the running back kind of snuck underneath him. He actually was there to potentially make the play. He actually wrapped up on him, but it was one of those plays where the running back just manages to sneak the ball across the goal line by a couple of inches. But I was relatively impressed with that. Next drive, zone read keeper. He kind of got punished by the receiver on this play. He was lined up in the slot because his man was in the slot, and then Gabriel takes off, and the slot receiver blocks Knight back, and it does knock him back, but Knight is eventually able to get in a position to force Gabriel to slide. There was one man coverage rep he had near the end zone where he was actually able to stick with his guy, the tight end, and Gabriel just had to throw the ball out of the back of the end zone, basically, because the coverage was there. So it was a nice man coverage rep for Knight, I will say that. There was a tackle near the goal line where again, you just see the lack of strength. The running back falls forward for the touchdown when it looks like the play is done. And it's just an example of him not quite having the strength to bring a guy down. He made a nice read on a swing pass, but before he was able to make the play, the lead blocker was able to drive him back almost 10 yards. So, again, it's just these things where you really notice his shortcomings as a player. Oklahoma being a team that is going to take full advantage of every weakness you have in college. Late in this game, I think this was getting to like the fourth quarter now, maybe late third, there was a play where he tried to shoot the gap and he guessed completely wrong, and there was a big run by Oklahoma immediately after. There was another play where I thought he was late, trying to diagnose a run to the opposite side and couldn't quite chase it down effectively. You just see this lack of aggressiveness in his game that seems to have improved a lot in 2023, but when you're looking at the 2022 tape, it does stand out. He just looks passive to me on a lot of plays. By the end of this game, UTEP was getting blown out, and they didn't seem all that invested. And he was part of that. He seemed a little checked out, which gave him something in common with a lot of other guys on the team. Final play of the game, basically, for the defense, he did make a tackle to force a field goal on 3rd and goal. So, I mean, great. It led to a game that ended, I think, 45-13. But if you're UTEP, you take whatever little victories you can get. So that was my evaluation of the one full cut-up I was able to find on UTEP's defense. It was mostly not good. Like, Knight did not look good in this game, really. Not that anybody on UTEP's defense did. It was a pretty bad game by them. It's a mismatch. But down the line, I might try to find other ways to get UTEP footage. See if I can dig something up a little bit more substantial. Maybe find a game that he actually looked really good in. But this is all I had, and it's not super encouraging. But again, I ask that everybody not read too much into it. Understand that this was him a couple years ago. It was him completely outmatched, and it was him against a team that is just going to exploit your weaknesses better than most. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. That's Tyrice Knight. Maybe another video later today. Probably streaming on Twitch tonight. And we'll move on to another rookie tomorrow, in all likelihood.